start time.
I'm done with brand loyalty. However, all the time. Every single
All right, welcome to Studio Review. So before we jump straight into reviewing the studio, I'm going to talk a little bit about graded assignment 1. Learner mentioned was like there's a lot to this and wanting to know how to get started with it. So full disclosure, I haven't really dug into this assignment enough to really have a real thorough understanding to be able to summarize it. So I'm not going to do a very great job summarizing it. But as far as getting started, that's what I do want to address. There's a lot of reading ahead in this studio, or I'm sorry, in the graded assignment 1 before we actually get to the part where it says, okay, what's the first thing we're going to do? So assuming we've kind of gone through all these words, lots of words, we then begin with task 1. And so task 1 is to print jobs. There already is this print jobs method. So best I can, I'm going to try to summarize how we get to print jobs. So inside of our graded assignment 1, this is the code we get when we clone the project. There's a lot of code that's already been written, and so that can be a bit intimidating the first time seeing just any project, not just this one. If you're starting at a new company and they've been working on a code base for a couple of years, when you're new to that, it takes a minute to get familiar with the code. And just speaking from personal experience, I mean, even when you have experience reading code, it's still a bit overwhelming when you're just like, oh, there's all this code. What does it all mean? So in general, the file that gets run is the tech jobs. That's where everything starts at. And then within this file, everything starts within this main method. The main method has this while statement in here. And so this is where we have all of our, where we're getting the user's input. And so we can test this out when we start up the app. It's the first thing it does is it's going to print messages. Welcome to LaunchCode's Tech Jobs app, and we have the message right here. So we can almost imagine the code running. It runs and it starts on line 14. It's really where the code starts running. And we get through the setup code, and we get to our first print statement. And then it gets the user, which would be us, our input. So we might do something like 1 for list. We press enter, and then it's already configured that it's going to give us a response to that. And it's even configured to the point that we can ask it to list all of, let's say, the employers, and we can see it does a great job listing all those employers. And so that happens. See if I can show where this happens. Right, so if the action choice equals list, and so that was me typing in up here, number 2. If the action choice equals list, then we're going to run this code right here. And so now it gets the column choice. And so I believe I did 2 for the employers. And so if column choice equals all, it's going to call this print jobs method. And this is the first method that we're going to want to edit with this assignment. And this is not yet. This does not work yet. If we don't choose print all, this next part does work. This else statement does work. At first, it's going to get the job data right here. Then it's going to get the column choice, and then this is, sorry, my scrolling's acting funny. This right here is the code that prints out all of the skills, the employers, whatever we select. This right here. And so our first task, scrolling down past a bunch of code, our first task is to implement the print jobs method. And so we'll notice that we're handed an array list of hash maps. So think objects in JavaScript, basically like an array of objects, or in this case, an array list of hash maps. And so if we just try to print some jobs, the output is going to be ugly. So this is where I'm going to point y'all in a direction. So if we remember last class, we had the studio counting characters. And in that studio, we produced this output. We printed out a hash map. And we couldn't just print the hash map because then it'd be ugly. We had to do some sort of special syntax to get that to work. And so typically assignments are mostly built off of studios, and studios are mostly built off of exercises. And inside of chapter 3, there's an exercise for hash map practice, where we can practice printing out a hash map. So that would be my, I guess, hopefully a nudge in the right direction as you're starting off this assignment, graded assignment 1. Hopefully that's helpful. I'll try to be a bit more familiar with it so I can summarize it a bit better. But with that, we will switch over to the actual studio review. Cool. Sweet. So I am going to just use the same file we were working in during class. I don't think it matters. So the first step of this was to design our menu and our menu item. So I'm just borrowing one of the groups. They made this nice whiteboard. I'm just going to use it instead of writing all this out. But to point out a few things on there, the menu class, this top box, it has two things. It has an array list. And so this would be an array list of menu items. So thinking back to this upcoming Java assignment, this seems kind of familiar. So we have an array list of objects, an array list of menu items. The other thing we have in there is a date for last updated. For the menu item, we have a name, a description, a category, a price, and a Boolean is new. So we may pick and choose which ones we implement, or we may implement all of them, we'll see. So let's get started here. So I created a new menu package. I'm going to say new Java class, and we're going to call this menu. Sweet. All right, so let's see. I'm going to leave this empty until I create the other one. I'm second guessing my whole strategy here of just creating a package per class. I haven't really thought through the best way to structure it, but it's not going to really matter. We're going to import the files either way. So we're going to call this one menu item. And in here, I'm going to add the Java class menu item. Cool. So we have our two things. And then inside of menu, they don't. I didn't really think through that part of it, but it shouldn't make a difference, I don't think. Okay, so we want to import menu. Did I misspell menu? My spelling brain is broken. Menu item and menu. I'm sorry, guys. All right, we'll deal with my spelling brain later. Item, sweet. Cool. So the first thing in our class is we want to do a property, private, and we'll call this just call it items. And this is going to be, set the type. This is going to be a hash map of, scrolling is acting funny, a hash map of menu items. Okay. Menu item, okay, so we have key value. Let's say we do string menu item, something like that. Maybe that works. We'll try that. Maybe integer. All right. So we're going to ignore the last updated for now. We have our setup. So let's jump into menu item. And so we have a string, which is the name. Cool. And so we have, I think we have enough to test it. So what we have is everything misspelled. And then we have inside of menu, we have our one property, which is a hash map of menu items. And so doing anything with the menu inside of main was not really part of the studio, but I want to try to visualize this if I can. So let's say import menu dot menu. Then we're going to say we're missing the, I deleted something I want here, sorry. So we're going to say menu and then equals new, and then this will be new menu, and then we gotta import it, import menu.menu. Okay, so we were able to create a new instance of menu. I still want to find a great way to test this. Get there soon. And so we know that menu takes in, menu has a field called items, and this takes in other objects. And so here, sorry, in main, to test this, I'm going to also import menu item. And I'm going to create a menu item to be able to add to our menu. So I'm going to say menu item, and I'm going to call this eggs equals new menu item, and we're going to pass it a string. It's its name, which is eggs. It doesn't like this yet. Expected 0 arguments, but 1 found. Now, I think I know why this is. Can someone tell me why this is? Why do you think this might be happening? Need a constructor, exactly. So let's jump over to menu item, and I go the lazy way, and we click OK. Note that it's named the same. We have our name. It sets the name. Cool. Now this is no longer complaining. And so this, let's see here. How do I best want to set the menu items? I am going to go for a hint and do a setter and see if this gives me an idea. So it's just going to be set items hash map. So I probably want to create a hash map before in main. So we could say something like hash map menu item equal breakfast items equals new hash map, and then cool, and then we can say it's a dot put. We're going to say one first item is going to be eggs. Okay, so now we have our test hash map that we can pass into our menu, which our menu is going to complain because we don't have a constructor yet. Generate constructor. Okay, there we go. All right, so I went a bit beyond the studio in setting all this up inside of our main class, but I felt it was sort of necessary because it's hard to know that we have a good solution until we're able to work with it. So here I'm going to go s out system out print line, and I'm going to try to print our breakfast menu. So let's run this, and so it prints the reference to the object in memory. And so this is pointing to the problem that we will have in graded assignment 1. We can't just print the reference in memory, we want to print the actual items. And so if I were to take this a step further beyond the studio, I may need to add into menu a public, make it void. We'll call this print menu. And we don't need to take in anything, any parameters. Instead, right here, we will write our method to print. And then we'll have our S out. Right, cool. So I don't want to take up too much of your time going off script here. So I'm going to pause here and take any questions regarding the menu, the menu items, etc. Yes.
I'm a little bit confused with the imports. I thought that like the purpose of there being multiple different classes was that so you didn't have to import them to each different file. Now I probably have that confused, but I guess you always have to import when you're using variables from classes from another class file.
So the question was about imports. So were you asking if so we're inside the main file and we're referencing this menu item type. You're asking if we need the import? Or why we need the import?
Yeah.
At least the way, I don't have like the deep technical answer for that, but the way my brain rationalizes it is because they're different files, they're different classes, right? The only way we can access the data from another file would be to import it, and so we'll see that in the future. Like even in our main method, we'll be importing things. I do want to test something real quick and just they're in different packages. Thank you.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay,
so
sweet.
if they're in the same package, you don't have to import them. Right?
Cool. Yes. Yeah, that's a much better answer than I was given. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So to reiterate that for anyone that didn't catch the crosstalk, so if you have two classes in one package, they have access to each other. You don't need to import them like I'm doing here. And so if I didn't put any of these into their own packages, their own folders, I believe the main method would be able to interact with them without having to import them, the main class. So yes, sweet. Other questions or comments or anything else? No? All right, cool. Well, this has been a good class. Thanks for participating, and I'll see y'all Monday.
Thank you.
Yep.